Machon Meir, studying Torah, Judaism, and Hebrew in a truly Zionist environment in Israel. Torah and Zionism from the heart of Jerusalem. Registration is open throughout the year.
Now for today's headlines. The French news agency Agence France Presse has reported Hezbollah allies and Lebanese government forces have engaged in heavy fighting in Tripoli, with the Lebanese army being soundly defeated and much of the city now in the hands of Hezbollah proxies. Two false Qassam alarms have been heard since the beginning of the ceasefire with the Hamas terror group, one in Sderot, the second in Kibbutz Be'eri. Family of kidnapped soldier Gilad Shalit appealed to the Bagatz, the Israeli Supreme Court, against the Israel-Hamas truce, while the Goldwasser and Regev families lobbied Knesset members in support of the deal with Hezbollah. Yoni Kapinski spoke to us from Jerusalem.
Shalom, Elliot.
Shalom, Yoni. You're at the Supreme Court in Jerusalem. What are the details regarding the appeal of the Shalit family?
Yes, I'm at the Supreme Court in Jerusalem, where the court is discussing and learning the details regarding all the promises that the promises and the declarations that Ehud Olmert and his government made regarding negotiations with the Hamas and the terms on which Gilad Shalit will be released and how to release him. For example, there is a quote of Olmert saying that there will be no negotiations with the Hamas, that there will be no concessions, of course, to the Hamas until Gilad Shalit is released home. And based on declarations like these and official statements that the Prime Minister made in the Security Cabinet and at the government meetings, Noam Shalit, Aviva Shalit, the parents of Gilad Shalit, are here appealing and demanding one thing, one main thing, that the crossings to the Gaza Strip not be open, because that could endanger the life of Gilad Shalit. And so far here at the Supreme Court, things are being postponed. The judges have to learn and read all the protocols, the top secret protocols that relate to many security issues. They'll have to go over all these protocols, then hear the lawyers of the Shalit family. So this might take some time. They're telling us it might even be postponed to tomorrow.
The court requested a break in order to go through the materials they received from the state, top secret protocols of the Security Cabinet. I don't know what will be. I don't have any judicial experience. But the feeling is that the judges are treating our appeal very seriously.
It's important to mention that the judges and the court did not say this is not something that we can deal with. They said, yes, this is something that is relevant for the High Court, for the Supreme Court to discuss, and maybe even to come to a decision that will maybe even affect the decisions of the Prime Minister and the government.
We understand that the family received a boost of support from the wife of missing airman Ron Arad. What's the story with that?
Yes, the wife of the missing Israeli Air Force navigator Ron Arad wrote a letter of support calling on the State of Israel not to do what she calls the same mistake and not to abandon Corporal Gilad Shalit. God forbid, she says, should this story become another Ron Arad story. Of course, many years have passed. No one knows what the fate of Ron Arad is. Of course, many fear that he has already been killed, but they know that he was alive at the first years of his captivity. And so the wife of Ron Arad is warning that the story of Gilad Shalit doesn't become the Ron Arad story number 2.
Meanwhile, the Goldwasser and Regev families are lobbying to gain support for the deal with Hezbollah. How's that working out?
Yes, while the Shalit family is appealing against a deal reached by the government, by the State of Israel, the Regev and Goldwasser family, the families of Eldad Regev and Ehud Goldwasser, who were kidnapped in Lebanon and are being held by the Hezbollah, are appealing, are lobbying, and trying to convince Knesset members, mainly, of course, ministers, to support a deal with the Hezbollah, a deal in which live prisoners will be transferred to the Hezbollah in exchange for Eldad and Ehud. One of these prisoners, of course, is the murderer Samir Kuntar, who never regretted for his actions. We don't know if Ehud and Eldad are alive. Everyone hopes that they're alive. But if they are, God forbid, dead, then basically Israel will be giving up terrorists, as I said, a murderer who hasn't regretted his actions, in exchange for bodies, and many people are saying that this is not the right way to act. One of the ministers said today that basically if this will be done, then Israel will be teaching Hezbollah and Hamas and many terrorist organizations throughout the world that it doesn't really matter. You don't have to take care of your prisoner, of the person you kidnapped, because in any case you will get what you want, no matter if you killed the prisoner or if you kept him alive.
What do most people think is the fate of the soldiers? Is there any real knowledge of their condition?
Well, reports today are actually very pessimistic. They're talking about the possibility, a big possibility that Ehud and Eldad were killed, maybe killed actually at the point when they were kidnapped, when their bodies were kidnapped and taken into Lebanon. Maybe they died later after. What is sure, by the way, is that they were injured, they were wounded in the battle when they were kidnapped to Lebanon. And today, intelligence sources are saying that there are as many chances that they are dead. And that, of course, is a fact, as we said, on the whole deal with the Hezbollah, method of pressuring the Hezbollah into cutting the deal as soon as possible, and maybe even without Samir Kuntar, because the price for dead IDF soldiers should be, of course, different than the price for live IDF soldiers.
Yoni Kapinski, thank you so much for filling us in on that. The Jewish Agency for Israel is holding the Board of Governors three-day summit dealing with many important issues like Aliyah, youth futures, priority regions, and branding. The opening session began with a speech by Prime Minister Ehud Olmert.
This is a gathering of minds to determine our future actions and future budgets for the coming years.
The Board of Governors started today here in Jerusalem, and it's under the speech of the Prime Minister, which said that actually we are going to upgrade the relationship between the government of Israel and the Jewish Agency and the Jewish world.
Precisely at a time when the state of Israel is flourishing, the Jewish people outside Israel meets unprecedented challenges. The old paradigm of the diaspora as benefactor and Israel as a beneficiary may no longer continue. For the past 60 years, Israel has been the project of the Jewish people. For the next 60 years, the Jewish people will need to be the joint project of Israel and Jewish communities around the world. Jews in Israel and around the world must be united not only in memorializing the past, but in preserving the future.
I think we have to recognize that while Eretz Israel is always at the center of our thoughts, at the center of the Jewish people, that we have a vital worldwide Jewish community, and it's important to keep that in mind.
And I understand that there's also bad news. You're trying to deal and cope with budget cuts.
That's right, because the dollar lost so much from its value against the shekel, so we'll have to put everything in order to meet our challenges, and the next year or two will be difficult for us because we'll have to cut the budget.
What's the significance of this event for you?
Well, the Jewish Agency, I think, is a very important institution, not only for Israel, but for world Jewry. And I think that what it does is provides us an opportunity to reconnect as a world Jewish organization.
Significance is being a connection with the Jewish world, the international Jewish world. Coming from a small country with a small number of Jews, to be connected.
For us Jews around the world to participate in Israel's life, in Israel's growth, and the education of Jews abroad and the education of Jews in Israel.
This event is not only in the hotel, you're going to visit places.
That's right. We're going to take all the members of the Board of Governors to see Sderot and surrounded of Gaza.
We're going to bring our word and our warmth and our love to the people of Sderot and the people of Ashkelon. And I think it's important for them to know that Jews around the world are with them, not only financially, but also their presence there is important for them.
It enables me to come back and to go to communities in North America and describe what our fellow Jews are feeling.
What is the Jewish community around the world coping with?
Well, I think we cope. The world is very small today, so we Jews everywhere cope with the existential threats to Israel because Eretz Israel is important to us, so we cope with that at least emotionally and intellectually, if not as physically as the Israelis do. At the same time, we find that there are increasingly Jews in need in Israel that are of great concern to us, as well as Jews around the world.
Coping today with assimilation, with losing maybe some political influence in the change of the population in Holland. We've got a big inflow of Muslims in the last 20, 30 years. So
the connection to Israel has got to be strengthened. There are a lot of people in the United States and in New York who are really disengaged from Israel, and the challenge is to engage them. The other issue is their own strength in terms of what Israel and what world Jewry means. How are they being Jewish? What is that? How is that manifested? It can't be just something in the heart. It has to be something that is developed.
That wraps up today's newscast. Join us again tomorrow for another edition. Until then, this is Elliot Toth. Shalom from all of us here at Arutz Sheva, Israel National News.